Want to put more savings away but unsure the best accounts to do it in? In this video, I'll cover 4 accounts to consider for saving and investing more money. It's a nice feeling to know that you're on the right track with your money and you actually are cash flowing more money than you need to pay the expenses of your everyday life. I meet a lot of people that are actually in that boat. They come to me and they ask, Nikki, I have my emergency fund, I'm contributing to my 401k, but I have more money I can save, and I don't know what to do with it. Well, first off, go you for killing your finances. Secondly, I got your back today. I'm gonna give you some accounts to consider and how to choose which one is best for you to put your moolah. Of course, for the sake of this video, we're going to assume that you have a fully loaded emergency fund that fits your needs. If not, make sure you address this first before moving forward on any other savings or investing. Also, the best type of account to keep your emergency fund in and any other cash that you have on the sidelines that you don't immediately need is going to be a high yield savings account. Although with rates so low right now, they're not really very high yield at all, but it's still gonna pay you more than keeping it in a checking or commercial bank savings account. Plus, if we get lucky and the Federal Reserve increases interest rates in the future, the banks increase their interest paid to you as well. This is also known as a variable interest rate. For the first account option, I'm going to say a health savings account is a great way to save more money while also achieving the goal of helping you cover medical expenses over your lifetime. Not everyone can actually contribute to a health savings account though. You have to have a high deductible healthcare plan that meets certain requirements to be able to contribute to a health savings account. Here are the minimum annual deductibles and out-of-pocket expenses allowed in your plan to be eligible for contributing to a health savings account. Some people may not have a big enough deductible, or they may have too large of an out-of-pocket expense limit, so that's something to watch out for. I've talked about health savings accounts before, but I'll say it again. You can not only get a tax deduction for the contributions, which is very advantageous if you're in a higher tax bracket, but you can pay for health expenses tax-free, and you can also invest in this account and treat it like a traditional IRA. Then, when you turn 65, you can take the funds out for any use you wish by simply paying taxes on it like you would a regular IRA account, or use it tax advantageously for your healthcare expenses throughout your entire life, including Medicare premiums when you turn 65. Yes, Medicare is not free 99. A lot of people unfortunately don't plan for healthcare expenses over their lifetime enough. It's expensive as hell to get old. Health savings accounts are a really neat account with a lot of potential use. I suggest you find out if you can contribute to one straight away if you want to plan more for your healthcare expenses and save simultaneously for retirement. Okay, the second account to consider is going to be your retirement account at work. This could be a 401k, a 403b, a 457 plan, or a simple IRA. You might be thinking, well, Nikki, I already contribute to get the match in my work plan. Well, that's great. But many people don't know that for a 401k, for example, you get a max contribution limit from your salary of up to $19,500 for 2020. So you may have more wiggle room to add more money here than you think. Plus, you get a tax deduction for these type of contributions. If you have good investing options in these accounts with low or reasonable fees, this is a great place to go max out your contributions. Why wouldn't you want to go with this approach? Well, like I mentioned, you may not get low cost or good investing options depending on your employer plan. And in that case, you'll want to keep watching for my other suggestions in this video. Or you may already be maxing out your workplace retirement plan. Go you, by the way. Also, if you pay a lower effective tax rate now, see if you have a Roth option that you can contribute to at work. You don't get a tax deduction now for Roth options, but you're effectively locking in your current low tax rate. If there is no Roth option in your case at work, you may want to consider the next option. Keep listening. The third account to consider would be contributing to a personal IRA. Everyone with earned income is allowed to contribute to an IRA account. There are some tricky rules to watch out for though, which I'll get into here shortly. You can choose to contribute to a traditional IRA, where you potentially get a tax deduction now and pay taxes later in retirement, or you can choose a Roth IRA option, which you pay taxes on the money contributed now, So no tax deduction now, but you get to pull the funds out in retirement tax-free. For the traditional IRA, if you have access to a retirement plan at work, the IRS has put limits on how much you can make and still deduct your traditional IRA contribution. You can still make it. It's just questionable whether you can deduct it on your taxes. For example, a single person with access to a 401k at work can contribute to a traditional IRA. But if they want to fully deduct the contribution, they can't have modified adjusted gross income over $65,000. And in that case, if you can't deduct it, it could be a good play to move over and see if you can do a Roth IRA instead. Might as well get the tax-free withdrawals in retirement, right? If not, you may have to consider something called a backdoor Roth, which I'll have to do a separate video on. So this leads us to the Roth IRA idea to stash your money. A good rule of thumb to consider would be if your effective tax rate that you pay is 22% or less, it can make a lot of sense to contribute to a Roth. But that's just a rule of thumb. It really depends on a lot of things within your situation. If you're paying a higher tax rate, but you have strong beliefs that tax rate will be much higher than what you pay now later, well, that can be a reason to utilize a Roth too. But keep in mind, if you're incorrect and down the line tax rates are about the same or less because of your retirement income, putting you in a lower overall bracket, then you effectively are giving up a deduction now. Essentially, you may end up just paying about the same rate. So making the decision doesn't come without some risks. But guess what? It's impossible to know the future, literally impossible. So we do the best we can, and I like to encourage people to utilize both Roth and traditional IRA options to be tax diversified. Throughout your life, in lower income years, you can lean more towards Roth. And in higher income years, you can lean more towards traditional, the best of both worlds. Here's the catch with the Roth IRA. You can't make over certain amounts of income to be able to contribute to it. The IRS, they'll always get you somehow, right? To give you an example, if you're single and your modified adjusted gross income is $139,000 or higher, you simply can't do a Roth IRA contribution at all. This is where you have to consider backdoor Roth contributions, but those can get a little tricky too, so work with a professional if you need to on that. Traditional or Roth, either way you go, the personal IRA is a great next place to look to save and invest more cash. We move on to the fourth account to consider putting more money, and that is a good old-fashioned taxable brokerage account. This is a regular brokerage account that you can open to invest in stocks, bonds, or even hold safer investments like CDs or money market mutual funds. You can open up these accounts at places like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, etc. You pay tax on interest and dividends as you receive them though, no tax deferral. And if you sell any security for a gain, you will owe tax on the gain in the year that you sold it. Tax-deferred accounts are ideal because leaving money in versus having to pull out money to pay taxes leads to a powerful compounding effect. But taxable accounts are underrated, in my opinion, on a few levels. First of all, yes, if you receive interest, you have to pay ordinary income tax rates on that interest, which essentially means you get taxed on interest as if it was just regular old income. But qualified dividends can have special capital gains tax treatment, which gets taxed at lower rates. Also, if you hold an investment in your account for over 1 full year, you are eligible for lower capital gains tax rates as well if you sell that investment. So, taxable accounts can be a good option to be able to take advantage of capital gains tax rates. Just keep in mind, this will apply to dividends and stocks or bonds held over a year. These capital gains rates can be much more favorable than your current ordinary income tax rate. Here are our current capital gains tax rates. They range from 0% to 20%. If you have modified adjusted gross income over $200,000 for single filers or $250,000 for married filers, there is also an additional tax of 3.8% added to the top of your capital gains rate. And fun fact, our capital gains rate system is actually progressive just like our income taxes are. This means that your capital gains can move through each bracket depending on what your ordinary income is. There could be an exceptional planning opportunity to take advantage of 0% capital gains rates for some individuals. So taxable accounts can ultimately act as Roth accounts. You're locking in today's tax rate on any dividends or gains that you take today. Of course, We're currently in an election year, and tax policy can change depending on who is president and who's in Congress. So keep in mind to always stay up to date with current tax law if you can. But as of now, it's not a bad idea to use a taxable account to save and invest with a long-term capital gains objective once you've maxed out your tax-deferred options. Also, taxable accounts give you the flexibility to be able to access the funds penalty-free if you needed to. You just want to make sure that you're invested properly for your risk tolerance and time frame for needing or using the funds. Maybe consider always having a small portion of the account in safer investments, like a short-term CD or money market mutual fund, or maybe even a bond, if you think you'll need to tap into it in the near future. Why? Because when you're invested in the actual stock market, you don't want to be in a situation where we're in a downturn in the markets and you'd have to pull that money out at the worst possible time. If you're investing in stocks with this money, think 3 to 5 years at a minimum to be able to have it working in the market for you. But you can invest the whole account conservatively too if you're just looking to save more money without taking on a ton of risk in the market. There are lots of options here. The main idea with a taxable account is to take a look at your current tax rate that you pay now, what your capital gains tax situation may look like, and make decisions based on that. A little bit of strategy. Maybe you're in a tax situation where you really need a tax deduction today, and tax-deferred accounts work better for your extra cash. Maybe you're in a really low tax bracket and will pay very little on capital gains, if nothing at all, in a taxable account, and you want some flexibility. So to recap places to save and invest more money: 1. HSAs, health savings accounts. They have triple tax advantages, which is rare, and it's expensive to get old, so plan now for it. 2, contribute more to your employer retirement plan to max out your contribution limits. Yes, you may have more wiggle room to go by putting more money in. 3, contribute to a personal IRA account, either a traditional or Roth, depending on your income and your beliefs around future tax rates. 4, utilize a plain old taxable brokerage account. The goal here would be to hold positions long enough to take advantage of long-term capital gains rates. Dividends also get preferential tax treatment. Keep in mind, interest is taxed at ordinary income rates, which are just the same old rates that your regular income is taxed at. That's it, Finance Fam. Now get to work saving and investing more of your money, and don't let inflation eat it alive. See you next time.